It started like any other day for Jacob Harper, a struggling engineer living paycheck to paycheck in Silicon Valley. He was scrolling through his phone during a rare lunch break when he saw it. A tweet from none other than Elon Musk himself. "If you have an idea that could change the world," Musk had written, "don't let anything stop you." Jacob laughed bitterly at the irony. Change the world? He couldn't even pay off the mountain of debt he'd accumulated trying to finish college. But something about those words stuck with him. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was hope. That night, Jacob made a bold decision. Against all odds, he decided to confront Elon Musk, not about changing the world, but about the crushing burden of student loans that were ruining his life. Little did he know, what happened next would leave millions around the globe speechless. Jacob Harper wasn't your typical Silicon Valley success story. At 28, he lived in a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat, his walls adorned with faded engineering degrees and unpaid bills. Growing up in a small town where the biggest dream was landing a job at the local factory, Jacob had always been different. He spent hours tinkering with old electronics, teaching himself how things worked. When he finally earned a scholarship to study mechanical engineering, it felt like the beginning of a fairy tale. But reality hit hard after graduation. The tech industry demanded experience, connections, and sometimes even a little luck, things Jacob didn't have. To make matters worse, his student loans came due faster than he could land a decent job. By the time he secured a position as a junior engineer, most of his paycheck went straight to creditors. His dreams of innovation seemed further away than ever. Still, Jacob refused to give up. Every evening, after working long hours debugging code or testing prototypes, he poured his heart into side projects. One of them, a revolutionary solar panel design, had caught the attention of a few bloggers. It wasn't much, but it gave him hope. Maybe one day someone important would notice. And then there was Elon Musk, the man who seemed to embody everything Jacob wanted to achieve. A billionaire entrepreneur known for pushing boundaries, Musk inspired millions with his vision of Mars colonization, electric cars, and sustainable energy. For Jacob, though, Musk represented something else entirely, the unattainable dream of breaking free from financial chains. Jacob's admiration for Elon Musk turned into something else entirely when he stumbled upon a statistic that stopped him in his tracks. According to a report, the average student loan debt in America had skyrocketed over the past decade, leaving millions of graduates trapped in a cycle of poverty. Jacob wasn't alone in his struggle, but knowing that didn't make it easier. One evening, while reading yet another article about SpaceX's latest launch, Jacob noticed something peculiar. In an interview, Musk casually mentioned that he hadn't paid back his own student loans because they were worthless compared to the opportunities he pursued. The comment sent Jacob spiraling. Here was a man who had built empires without worrying about debts, while people like Jacob were drowning under the weight of theirs. The more Jacob thought about it, the angrier he became. If someone as powerful as Elon Musk could ignore their financial obligations, why couldn't the system offer some relief to those who truly needed it? That's when the idea hit him. What if he reached out directly to Musk, not to ask for charity, but to challenge him? To confront him about the disparity between his privilege and the struggles faced by ordinary people. But how do you get the attention of one of the busiest men on the planet? Jacob knew it wouldn't be easy, but he also knew this might be his only chance. Armed with nothing but determination and a laptop, he began crafting a message that would either go unnoticed or change everything. Jacob spent weeks perfecting his message. He poured every ounce of frustration, hope, and desperation into those words. Finally, he posted an open letter to Elon Musk on social media, a platform where the billionaire often engaged with fans and critics alike. The letter was raw and honest. Jacob wrote about his struggles, detailing how student loans had crushed his dreams before they even had a chance to take flight. He talked about the long hours he worked just to keep food on the table, the sacrifices he made to pursue education, and the overwhelming sense of failure that haunted him daily. But most importantly, he called out Musk's privilege, asking why someone like him could dismiss debt so easily while millions suffered under its weight. For days, nothing happened. Jacob's post gained a handful of likes and comments, but it didn't seem to reach the audience he hoped for. Just as he began to lose hope, something extraordinary occurred. A reply appeared, not from some random account, but from Elon Musk himself. Musk's response was brief: "Let's talk." Those two words sent shockwaves through Jacob's world. Within hours, the interaction went viral. People from all over the globe weighed in, praising Jacob for speaking truth to power and criticizing Musk for what many saw as tone-deaf remarks about debt. Suddenly, Jacob found himself thrust into the spotlight. Reporters called non-stop, interview requests flooded his inbox, and strangers reached out to share their own stories of struggle. Amidst the chaos, one thing became clear: this wasn't just about Jacob anymore. It was about the millions of people who felt forgotten by a system rigged against them. But the real challenge lay ahead. Jacob now had to prepare for the conversation of a lifetime, a face-to-face meeting with Elon Musk himself. As the date approached, doubt crept in. What if Musk dismissed him again? What if the entire ordeal ended in disappointment? Despite his fears, Jacob pressed on. He researched everything he could about Musk's businesses, his philosophies, and his past statements. He crafted questions designed to provoke thought and spark change. And deep down, he held on to the belief that this meeting might finally give him, and countless others, a voice. As the day of the meeting approached, Jacob's emotions were a whirlwind. On one hand, he felt empowered. Finally, someone was listening to his story, to the stories of so many others like him. But on the other hand, fear gnawed at him. Fear of failure, fear of being dismissed, fear of letting down the millions who had rallied behind him. The night before the meeting, Jacob couldn't sleep. He paced around his small apartment, staring at the walls covered with sketches and notes. His mind kept replaying worst-case scenarios: Musk brushing him off, laughing at his concerns, or worse, ignoring him altogether. Yet, amidst the anxiety, there was also a flicker of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something bigger. Jacob thought about all the people who had reached out to him since the letter went viral. There was Sarah from Ohio, struggling to pay for her mother's medical bills while juggling student loans. There was Carlos from California, working 3 jobs to support his family while pursuing a degree in computer science. And then there was Mia from Texas, a single mother trying to build a better future for her kids, despite overwhelming debt. Their faces, their voices, their struggles became Jacob's motivation. When the morning came, Jacob dressed carefully, choosing a simple but professional outfit. As he walked to the meeting location, a sleek office building in the heart of Silicon Valley, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about giving a voice to the voiceless. Inside the building, Jacob was greeted by an assistant who led him to a quiet room. The walls were adorned with awards and photos of SpaceX rockets and Tesla vehicles. It was a reminder of the vast difference between his world and Musk's. But Jacob reminded himself of one thing: they both shared a dream, to make the world a better place. For Musk it meant colonizing Mars and revolutionizing transportation. For Jacob, it meant creating a system where everyone had a fair shot at success. As he waited, Jacob's thoughts drifted back to his childhood. He remembered the joy of fixing broken appliances, the thrill of learning how things worked. Those early experiences had fueled his passion for engineering, leading him to pursue a career in a field he loved. But somewhere along the way, the system had failed him. Now he had a chance to fight back, not through anger or resentment, but through dialogue and understanding. When the door opened, Jacob stood up, his heart pounding. Elon Musk entered the room, tall and imposing, yet surprisingly approachable. The moment of truth had arrived. The room fell silent as Jacob and Elon Musk faced each other. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Musk extended his hand, and Jacob shook it firmly, trying to steady his nerves. "Jacob," Musk began, his voice calm but direct, "I read your letter. Let's talk." Jacob took a deep breath, reminding himself of the countless hours he'd spent preparing for this moment. He didn't want to waste a single word. "I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me," Jacob started, choosing his words carefully. "But I have to ask, how can someone like you, who achieved so much without worrying about student loans, understand what it's like for people like me, people who are drowning in debt just because we wanted to learn, to contribute, to make a difference. Musk tilted his head slightly, studying Jacob intently. You're right, he admitted after a pause. I haven't walked in your shoes, but that doesn't mean I don't care about the system that put you there. Jacob felt a flicker of surprise. He hadn't expected such an admission from the billionaire entrepreneur. Encouraged, he pressed on. The problem isn't just the loans themselves, Jacob explained. It's the way they trap people. They force us to choose between paying off debts or pursuing our passions, and for many of us, those passions are exactly what the world needs right now. Innovations, solutions, ideas that could change everything. Musk nodded slowly, leaning forward in his chair. What would you propose? He asked. If you were in charge, how would you fix it? Jacob hesitated for only a second before launching into the plan he'd been refining for weeks. He talked about reforming interest rates, creating more accessible pathways to education, and encouraging companies to invest in talent regardless of financial background. He even suggested partnerships between tech giants like SpaceX and struggling students, offering mentorships and funding opportunities. As Jacob spoke, Musk listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes. When Jacob finally finished, the room was quiet, except for the hum of the air conditioning. You've given me a lot to think about, Musk said finally, and I'll be honest, I don't have all the answers, but if we're going to solve this, it's going to take more than one person. It's going to take collaboration, creativity, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Before Jacob could respond, Musk stood up and offered him a handshake once again. Let's work together, he said. Not just for you, but for everyone out there fighting the same fight. Jacob's heart raced as he accepted the offer. In that moment, he realized something incredible. Maybe, just maybe, change was possible after all. The meeting ended on a hopeful note, with Musk promising to explore ways his companies could help address the student debt crisis. Jacob left the office building, feeling lighter than he had in years. For the first time, he believed that his voice, and the voices of millions like him, might actually make a difference. Over the following weeks, Musk made good on his word. He announced a new initiative through SpaceX and Tesla, a program designed to support aspiring engineers and innovators burdened by student loans. The program offered mentorships, internships, and even financial assistance to those who demonstrated potential but lacked resources. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was a start. Jacob became one of the program's first ambassadors, traveling across the country to share his story and inspire others to speak up about their struggles. Along the way, he met countless individuals whose lives mirrored his own. Together, they formed a movement, a collective effort to push for systemic change. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a twist emerged. While speaking at a conference, Jacob received a message from an anonymous source. Attached was a document detailing Musk's early financial dealings, including allegations of questionable practices related to his own education funding. The revelation shook Jacob to his core. Was Musk truly committed to reform, or was this all part of a carefully crafted public relations strategy? Jacob wrestled with the information, unsure whether to expose it or trust that Musk's intentions were genuine. In the end, he decided to keep the document private, for now. Instead, he focused on the progress being made and the lives being transformed. As Jacob stood before a crowd of cheering supporters at the conclusion of the conference, he reflected on how far he'd come. From a struggling engineer, drowning in debt, to a catalyst for change, his journey had been anything but ordinary. And though questions lingered, one thing remained certain: the fight for fairness and equality was only beginning. As Jacob stepped off the stage that evening, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and determination. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he knew one thing for sure: silence was no longer an option. So here's where you come in. What do you think Jacob should do next? Should he reveal the document and risk jeopardizing the progress they've made, or continue working within the system to create lasting change? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to stay updated on Jacob's journey and see what happens next, hit that subscribe button. This story isn't over yet, and I promise you won't want to miss what comes next. Together, we can keep the conversation going and push for a world where everyone has a fair shot at success. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.